Welcome to Daai Headlines. I'm Helen Liao. Thank you for joining us. Coming up in today's show, China Tzu Chi volunteers are distributing 200 blankets and 8 packs to Lushan Junior High School students in Sichuan Province. We visit school built by Tzu Chi after Wenchuan earthquake in 2008 and see why they're able to withstand the recent Yaan earthquake. And we meet Mrs. Jiang, whose husband died from SARS 10 years ago, to see how the tragedies has changed her life forever. We kick off today's show in China. It has been 10 days since the Yaan earthquake devastated many parts of Sichuan Province. In Lushan County, students at Lushan Junior High School have returned to school and are studying in prefabricated classrooms built by local businesses. As student lack of stationery and daily necessities, on April 28th, Tzu Chi volunteers distributed 200 blankets and 8 packs, giving these students a chance to study free from worries.
When everyone studies together, it puts me back in a study mode. It also helps calm my mind, and we can help each other too.
In spite of the difficult learning environment following the quake, students have learned to overcome the hardship. Luckily, with the help from businesses, 3 prefabricated classrooms have been built on their behalf.
Students living near this area are studying inside 3 prefabricated classrooms. Currently, we have around 200 students back at school, and every day we see more students coming back.
After the earthquake, the school became the biggest temporary shelter in the whole county. Therefore, students have nowhere to study. Right now, Lushan County government is building prefab houses for disaster victims to stay in. It has been 3 days since students returned to school, and principals and teachers are doing their best to meet the students' needs.
We try to cover all the subjects and target our students' needs. Currently, students from all grades are mixed together, so most of the time they are studying on their own. We are here to help them with any problems.
As well, love from Taiwan has arrived to help.
1、2、3，来。
Tzu Chi volunteers and local volunteers respectfully hand over 8 packs and daily necessities to show their support for these junior high school students.
Today,
we have provided students with these items. Although they are not expensive, they are filled with love from kind-hearted people.
The 8 packages are filled with daily necessities and stationery. These items are needed by our students, and they will help them through this difficult time.
Upon receiving the 8 packages, students are excited to see what is inside. Although the items are limited, the love embedded in the packages has touched these students' hearts.
Many of us didn't know each other until we came here. We weren't hurt during the disaster, just lost our homes, but we are still frightened. Tzu Chi volunteers have provided us with warmth.
I hope I can get into a good high school and eventually go to a good university. In the future, I want to contribute to the society and help those in need too.
Also in Lushan County, the Yaan earthquake left many houses and shops severely damaged. To move on with their lives, many shop owners have returned to business by setting up stands or selling their goods on the streets. In our next report, we follow our Daai TV reporter to Luyang Town to look at how shop owners are getting through this difficult time.
Right now, I'm in Luyang Town, Lushan County. This is the North Street, and after the quake, many old houses collapsed. However, we see some shops are back in business.
Miss Hu's shop was severely damaged in the recent quake. Now, to make a living, she takes her remaining goods to the stand that she has set up in front of her damaged shop.
Business is not so great, but we can't rely on help from others forever. So we need to help ourselves too. We are all farmers, so we need to plant crops. We will grow as much as we can and sell our harvest accordingly.
Walking along the streets, we see many shop owners have set up stands outside of their stores. Clothing shop owner Miss Luo says her shop was severely damaged and she has to find a new place.
I will see what I can do when I have a new shop to move into. Right now, I can't do business. We're currently all staying at the temporary shelter.
The earthquake also damaged Mr. Zhu's motorcycle shop. However, the very next day after the disaster, Mr. Zhu and his wife started repairing broken motorcycles for local residents.
After the quake, some motorcycles were left with broken glass, flat tires, or bent frames. We only charge money for replacing the parts.
As well as to express his gratitude to the rescue workers, Mr. Zhu repairs their vehicle free of charge.
Many people came far and wide to help us, and we are very grateful for their help. A tire doesn't cost much, but we feel bad if we charge them.
Although still suffering from the devastation of the Yaan earthquake, local residents remain filled with determination and courage and are working hard to return the area to its former glory. As Lushan County is currently without water and electricity, the local government and private sectors have worked hand in hand in providing 3 meals a day to those sheltered at the local gymnasium to make sure quake survivors have enough nutrients through this difficult time. Here's more.
Here in Lushan, local army units mobilize early each morning to provide a hot meal for survivors of the April 20th earthquake in Yaan City, China.
Since April 22nd, Chengdu's Logistic Command Army Group has been here in Lushan, providing 3 meals a day to survivors of the earthquake. Everybody works 18-hour shifts, helping out the victims of the disaster. Most time we get off duty around 3 a.m. as we are providing assistance to those in need. Everyone is flexible and motivated to provide their proper help.
To help cook meals, the Army had a kitchen trailer and a refrigeration unit moved to the area. Those in charge of cooking all have professional experience as they provide over 6,000 meals a day, taking great care to make sure each meal is nutritious.
Leafy greens do not keep well here, and we try to use new materials every day. We also provide different types of dishes for each meal so that even though the victims are suffering from a disaster, they can still get a balanced, nutritious meal.
The local army unit is not the only ones providing meals for survivors. A chain restaurant has also joined the volunteer work. Providing a sanitized workstation, these chefs have brought their restaurant ethics to the makeshift kitchen here at the disaster site.
Every day we try to provide meals for 4,000 people.
There is even an area set up for the elderly and disabled to eat in shaded areas. What's amazing is that some chefs are earthquake survivors themselves.
6 of our chefs come from this area, and they have put aside their own grief, even though their own houses have been flattened. When they heard for a chance to help, they immediately jumped at the chance.
In the wake of this natural disaster, residents near and far are banding together in solidarity, proving that, although disasters may damage lives, compassion for others can never be broken.
Also in China, in days following the Yaan earthquake, students from Southwestern University of Finance and Economics of Chengdu has set up 10 classrooms inside Lushan Middle School. Besides leading coursework, the teachers are also providing emotional support for those that need it, as they hope to help these children return to their normal lives as soon as possible.
Days after the 420 Yaan earthquake, and Lushan County government has been hard at work preparing for the construction of prefabricated housing units, while education for children is also being resumed.
Schooling for Lushan County's children is resuming inside these makeshift classrooms.
你为什么会想要地震之后还来上课？
因为我想考到一个好的中学。
为什么？
这样减轻家里的负担。
我们不知道还有多久才上学。
We don't know when we'll be able to resume schooling. If we have to wait long time, you might fall behind.
Students of the Southwestern University of Finance and Economics of Chengdu have grouped up into volunteer teaching teams of 20 and are currently taking shifts of every 5 days to make sure these children do not lag behind on their educational path.
As long as they have a need for us, we will be here teaching them. We are covering all areas of study, language, arts, math, English, etc.
Every day, hundreds of students ranging from preschool to high school show up for class. Those students facing upcoming college entrance examinations are also taken care of.
Currently, the 400-some students from Lushan Middle School have been relocated to our Guanghua campus. They have resumed classes there.
For this English class, 20 to 30 students are crammed inside a tent, which offers little protection against the elements. And though volunteering to teach may delay their own education, these university students nonetheless still wholeheartedly participate.
Before I came here, I was worried I would fall behind in my studies, but after arriving here, I realized the things that I've received far outweighed what I've lost. When we are helping the students, we actually are getting more in return than what we gave. Also, every night we get together and each volunteer will share some insights from the day.
The volunteer teachers stay in tents like the quake survivors, bringing a sense of camaraderie in the face of this natural disaster, with all hoping to be able to start rebuilding their lives as soon as possible.
In 2008, the collapse of many schools after the devastating Wenchuan earthquake sparked concerns regarding construction regulations in China. Charity organizations such as the Red Cross and the Tzu Chi Foundation later arrived to assist with the reconstruction of the schools. And after the recent Yaan earthquake on April 20th, these newly built schools not only withstood the strong quake, but also became temporary shelters for local residents.
Jiang Middle School in Jiang collapsed in the 2008 Wenchuan earthquake, and its ruins are still a reminder for passers-by.
This collapsed building was one of the main buildings at the school and used to be 5 stories tall, but now we can actually see the top of the roof. If we look further down, the desks and chairs used by students are still preserved in the ruins. Jiang bore the brunt of the 512 earthquake, and all of the some 90 schools in the area suffered different degrees of damage. The tremor was a wake-up call for Sichuan and the country to reassess their architectural standards and become stricter in terms of school building safety.
In the aftermath of the quake, residents have been described as the most beautiful thing one can find in disaster areas, and the schools their steadiest heaven.
The construction means a great deal to our future generations because it is a public building. We have made the quality of rebuilding process our top priority.
The determination to build high-quality and safe buildings came from a lesson learned following Taiwan's 9/21 earthquake in 1999.
The size of all metal frames has to be measured, and they can only be bigger, but not smaller. In addition, if the pillars don't match the requirements or are slightly tilted, we have to start over again. Only when these problems are fixed does construction continue.
Mingshan County of Yaan, a place known for its flourishing tea culture, now poses school buildings which are safe and equipped with modern facilities. The frame structures are a testimony to the hard work of many.
全部都是地震的时候，已经完全的垮塌。现在又是一次余震。
学生这边，学生和老师。
The students and teachers were all right, and we could tell the school building was strong. There were only a few minor problems which we can easily fix.
是一些小的一些脱落。
中峰师傅，你有收到灾情？
Zhongfeng Middle School was not affected by the quake. We are doing fine and there are no cracks in the wall. All the buildings reconstructed by the Red Cross did not collapse and are standing tall.
The epicenter of the 420 earthquake lies in Lushan County, which is only some 10 kilometers away from Mingshan, and the school became residents' #1 choice for temporary shelter.
This was rebuilt after the Wenchuan earthquake. It can withstand an 8 magnitude earthquake, so it is quite safe.
现在很好。
We are doing fine here. The school was built by our compatriots in Taiwan and can handle magnitude 8 tremors.
进来的有200多人了。
Last night, we had about 200 residents from around 100 households. We provided drinking water and put them in the classrooms on the ground floor.
都安排是他们的住的都是底楼。
The school opened its grounds for students and local residents to take refuge in, as well as became a point to carry out relief work from. In the wake of a natural disaster, not only are these school buildings still standing tall, but they have also inspired mutual love and care among local residents.
April 24th marked the 10th anniversary of Taipei City Heping Hospital's lockdown during the SARS outbreak in 2003. This year, the hospital did not organize any commemorative events, as even 10 years later, the terror still rings fresh in the memories of the people who lived through the crisis. Today, we bring you the story of Mrs. Jiang, whose husband died from SARS and she herself was infected along with 5 other family members. Recollecting that time, Mrs. Jiang says the pain never really left.
Here at the Heping Hospital, people are coming and going. However, an event here 10 years ago is still fresh in the minds of many.
On April 22, 2003, the news of 7 Heping Hospital staff having contracted SARS caused nationwide shock and panic in Taiwan. To contain the virus from spreading, the government ordered an immediate lockdown of Heping Hospital on April 24th. 950 medical personnel, along with some 200 patients and their family members, were forcibly isolated.
Regardless of whether you were infected or not, you were quarantined. That feeling was indescribable because you possibly faced death or you possibly don't have SARS.
Even for medical staff, the torment was too much to bear. For those who had contracted SARS, the pain and trauma has left a long-term scar. Having contracted and recovered from SARS, Lei Pei-ling decided to establish the SARS Association.
Those infected with SARS were all locked up in one room. We couldn't come into contact with anyone. The nurses would check up on us every few hours, but that feeling of just waiting to die was terrifying.
用这个皮带啊，在这个意识里面，这个上吊。
Some chose to end their lives as the stress was too much to bear.
我们愿意被隔离，但不愿意留在和平医院。
Those who showed mild symptoms or who were uninfected were finally released after 3 days and were admitted to other hospitals. On May 8th, the last group of patients and hospital staff were released. 10 years since the SARS epidemic, for some, life has returned to normal. But for those who travel to the gates of hell and back, the nightmare still haunts them.
Those that did recover suffer from pulmonary fibrosis, some more severe than others.
Faced with the unprecedented first mass infection of the virus, doctors were at a loss as what to do, and many treated patients with high dosages of steroids, which subsequently caused significant adverse effects.
Over 90% suffer from osteoporosis. A lot of us suffer from vascular necrosis.
Not only does the physical pain still linger on, the painful memories are even harder to erase.
If you were one of them, you will never forget. The pain lives on forever. For some, it's not their mother or father they lost, but their spouse.
Flipping through the magazine report of her husband's death, Mrs. Jiang tells us her husband was staying at the same hospital ward as the laundry worker who was infected with SARS.
My husband had a mild stroke and was admitted to Heping Hospital on April 14th. And on April 15th, the man moved into the bed next to my husband.
Those who went to visit, including Mrs. Jiang and 5 other relatives, all contracted SARS in the process.
That man was on a drip and was in agony, so instinctively we went over to help him. I think I was infected at that time. On April 20th, I came down with a fever.
Also having contracted SARS, Mr. Jiang's condition deteriorated rapidly and passed away soon after.
I didn't want them to treat me. All I wanted was to see my husband one last time.
Bereaved with the loss of her other half and unable to say goodbye as she was quarantined, Mrs. Jiang almost lost her will to live.
I wanted to end my life, really. My children were seriously ill, and so was I. I thought if they didn't want me to see my husband, then I might as well die with him.
Fortunately, with the encouragement of those around her, Mrs. Jiang regained her will to live.
The nurse was very brave. She didn't mind that I was sick. She still came over to comfort me. I'm so thankful, even till this day.
Although it has been 10 years since, the deadly epidemic that struck a decade ago has left a long-term mark for many. What SARS took away were the lives of loved ones, but what remains are the memories which are harder to erase. For these family members, the battle of SARS still continues, even till this day.
In the United States, on April 27th, the Texas government finally gave local residents approval to return to their homes at the blast zone of the fertilizer plant explosion in the town of West. Following the emergency support provided to the disaster victims, volunteers from the Tzu Chi Dallas chapter have begun plans to help residents return to normalcy as soon as possible.
In the town of West, Texas, as the fertilizer plant exploded, many nearby residents soon arrived at the local community center and did their best to help the victims.
My wife and I saw the incident on the news, like most people did. Something in our spirits just kind of stirred within us, and we talked amongst ourselves and said, you know what, we need to go help them. I'm supposed to leave tonight because I have to work tomorrow, but I don't want to leave. I want to continue to give.
I was driving my truck down the road and I saw the blast. And I pulled over and I ran down this street and came here because this was where everyone was going, and just have been here on scene ever since. This is a major disaster. This is not like a house fire. This is quite larger than that. And there's a long-term effect that we have to be aware of.
With the disaster site contained, the local government reopens the blast zone to the local residents, who can finally return home to survey the extent of the damage of their houses.
The explosion was from that direction. It blew through here, it blew the window out. There was actually glass stuck in the wall.
Fortunately, this victim's house only suffered minor damage, and he can use Tzu Chi's cash card to buy tools for repair.
I enjoyed meeting all the people from your foundation. The ladies are lovely. They gave me homemade cookies. They said I could have as many as I wanted. They were nutritious. They were wonderful. It's a different culture, but love speaks one language.
As the emergency support concludes, Tzu Chi volunteers from the Dallas chapter are already thinking of ways to help the survivors rebuild their homes in the days ahead.
We go to Italy at the end of the show. On April 28th, Europe Tzu Chi volunteers held a tea gathering in the city of Rome and were joined by members of the Chinese community. Through the event, volunteers hope to encourage more people to walk the Tzu Chi path. We will leave you with these images. Thank you for watching the headlines. Goodbye.